we have already shown to the whole world that the more he tries to break us, the stronger we become.
It must be so difficult for you to read about the discovery of this mass grave in Izyum and the investigation that now follows. Do you feel that the truth can ever be got to when there are these atrocities or believed to be atrocities across Ukraine?
The only truth that we know that it was Russians who have done this. The question is, how do we bring those people to responsibility, and how do we find the exact ones who are responsible? Because we have seen the same in Bucha. We have seen and heard about so many atrocities which were committed in Mariupol. And when we will liberate Mariupol, believe me, there will be more shock to come. And now we have Izyum. And many say that it's much worse than Bucha, that in the total destruction, it's much worse than Borodyanka. And, according to our Secretary of Defense, he said that more than 500 rockets were launched on Izyum. This is the largest number of the rockets ever launched. And right now, you see that it's hard for me to speak because our whole social media is, of course, in all those photos of the dead people, of the process of the exhumation, and the whole country is really, we are traumatized. This is what I can say.
Mm. Of course. Do you take any hope from the counteroffensive and the success that Ukraine has seen with that in recent days and weeks? Does that fill you with hope?
Of course, according to the last sociological surveys, more than 98% of Ukrainians, they do believe in Ukrainian victory. And this was done in August. And I think that after such a successful counteroffensive, then there is, of course, more to come. People are, of course, praising our army. People do not stop sending the money they have to the army. And you see that I'm right now in the military clothes because we are all also as civilians, we are preparing, we are doing military trainings, we are working with weapons because we are making sure that even those guys who are in the front line, who are fighting right now, we want to make sure that they have the support they need. And if needed, they have the change they need. Because, people are, of course, dying in the front line. But we do hope that, of course, we finally believe that we can win Russia. And this is the main thing. And it's very good that you started believing that we can win Russia. And this is already on the table.
I want to get your perspective on comments that have come from China and India in recent days, because early on, after Russia invaded Ukraine, China and India were seen, well, possibly as supporters of Russia, at the very least neutral. But in recent days, we know that China has talked about its concern over the war. And now Narendra Modi said in public yesterday, as I said to you, President Putin, on the phone, this is not an era for war. How significant do you think it is that those voices are now coming out of those countries?
For us, of course, as a small country, like comparing to Russia, for us, it's at least a victory that not China, neither India, they're not publicly supporting the war and they're not sending any support to Russia. And for us, it's a big diplomatic victory because we do understand that if those two countries publicly support in all the votings, if they send their ammunition, because Putin has asked China, give me some ammo, and China refused. And for us, of course, we do try right now. What is really important that our president, he's not only trying to speak to you, he tries to speak to the countries of Africa, and he had more than 25 calls, if I'm not mistaken, with the presidents of Africa in the last 2 months. Now we are trying to also expand our diplomacy to Asia, because we do understand that the whole world must understand at least, if not support, but must understand at least that there is Russia, who is to be blamed for this war, and there is the Russia to be called the terrorist state, and there is Russia to be soon demilitarized and denuclearized. And this is very important to raise such issues. This is very important to talk to people, and of course, we do hope that both China and India will, in some time, finally support us in this war and will join the international tribunal and will join the forces to finally win Russia.
On that note, we know that the British Prime Minister Liz Truss is travelling to the UN General Assembly on Monday night after the state funeral of Queen Elizabeth. it, you are a youth delegate to the UN. I just wonder what more you want the UN to do to stand up to Russia, to force their hand, or to support Ukraine further.
I will also personally be joining the General Assembly, and of course, the messages which we will have there is, of course, more support to Ukraine, more humanitarian assistance, and we do know that Ukraine will be on the top agenda of the United Nations General Assembly. And of course, the problems we have seen for the last 8 years, that there is time for the UN to finally understand that, guys, there is something wrong working inside this system. Because when you have Russia sitting at the Security Council and blocking every decision, which at least says that Russia is not right, this is like, how can the UN work? And of course, we are advocating for a UN to find out how Russia even got into the UN, because there was no voting for Russia to get into the UN. They have just passed this right from the USSR, but this is not like this. Some kind, the judicial like collision. So it will be very interesting to talk to people there. And of course, for us, it's really important to do not stop saying the truth, because sometimes UN is so afraid to call war a war, and this is really important for them to do so.
Finally, can I ask you one last question? There's been a lot of talk throughout the week about the potential for President Putin to use a tactical nuclear weapon. How worried are people in Ukraine about that? Do they think that is likely to happen? Is that a concern of yours?
Living in the war for more than half a year, we are not afraid of anything. We are, if you walk around Kyiv when there are sirens, which are telling us that there is an airstrike alarm, you will see that most of the people, they do not react. Of course, this is an issue, but if he uses it, it will be the last decision of him, because I do think that there is not even enough supporters in Russia to support such a decision. And the US has already said to Putin that if you do this, there will be a response from us. So we do not really think that he will do this, but even if he does, we have already shown to the whole world that the more he tries to break us, the stronger we become.